class. Then he said, bad, weiß, rotten. Okay, 3 laughs on these, you'll say, anyway, so he says, so we have these in Yiddish too, this is not in Leo Rosten. I'm not going to translate this is just for those who know Yiddish, you can explain it. You explain it to the others, because I can't. Reich, ungestoppt, auf mir gesorgt. Okay, good, that's just for you, this is a private joke. Okay, here we go. Mies, what's mies?
Ugly.
Ugly. Remember in one of the Woody Allen films, he goes up to a lady and says, how are you? You're mies kite. Okay. Mies, chalushes, Ashena Lakeman in Dreda. This is just for the few, for the you understand? Explain. Yes. These are the 2 little children in the hospital, and they're lying next to each other, and one says to the other, what are you in here for? And he says, I'm getting my tonsils out. I'm a bit nervous. Ah, he says, you have nothing to worry, don't worry. He said, I had that done when I was 4. They put you to sleep, and when you wake, they give you lots of jello and ice cream. It's nothing. What are you here for? He says, a circumcision. He says, ooh. He says, no. He says, I had that when I was 8 days old. I couldn't walk for a year. You know, we always have to, for shul, we have to raise money. Shuls, the federation, everyone has to raise money. Someone goes around to a very wealthy man. They've never got anything from him before, but he's got the right kind of name. So they go to him and they say, look, we need a donation. You know, the federation, this, that, the other. He says, look, I'm telling you something. Listen to me, because I'm going to tell you once, and that's it, and then you can leave. I'm not Jewish. My father wasn't Jewish. And my grandfather, Oliver Sholem, wasn't Jewish either. But now I have one, since I can't just restrict myself to our own Jewish people. This is a story about a priest. I apologize to her. Well, let me go to another one. I told this story many, many years ago at the Skokie Public Library, and afterwards someone said, a man said, as a Jew, I was offended by this, so I will definitely tell you the story. It concerns a seminary student, someone who was studying to be a priest, and his greatest wish was to see the Pope. His greatest wish. So he goes to Rome, and he goes to St. Peter's Square, and there are a whole bunch of people sitting there. And to his amazement, one of them is a Chassid, a Hasidic Jew. He's got a long beard, he's got payas, he's wearing a big black hat and a long kapota, a big black coat. And the Pope comes out, and these people in the chairs all get up, and the Pope goes straight over to this Hasidic Jew and speaks to him. So he thinks, now I know how to meet the Pope. And he runs into town, he finds a costume shop where they sell disguises and things like that. He buys himself a fake beard and fake payas and a big black hat and a long black coat, and the next day he goes and sits where the Hasidic Jew sat the day before. And the Pope comes out, and he and the others all stand up, and sure enough the Pope comes right over to him and says to him, I thought I told you yesterday to get the hell out of here. And since we're on another religion, another one, let me see how many people I can offend. There was a priest, new in his parish, in his church, and he goes to the bishop and he says, it's a very difficult problem. He says, what's happened? He says, I've lost my bicycle, and I'm convinced that one of my congregants has stolen it, and it's very embarrassing. What do I do? And the bishop says to him, he said, I'll tell you what you do. Next Sunday, I almost said next Shabbos, next Sunday, preach about the 10 Commandments And when you come to thou shalt not steal, say it very slowly, thou shalt not steal. Just look around everywhere. You'll get your bike back. A week later, the bishop sees the priest riding on his bike. He says, it worked. He said, yes, but not quite in the way you imagined. He said, what do you mean? He said, I warn you, it's bad. He said, when I got to thou shalt not commit adultery, I remembered where I'd left it. Yes. Well, he didn't expect all of them to be Yiddish. We have some, when I speak in the synagogue, this actually happened with someone, it happens, people fall asleep. One day the rabbi was speaking, wasn't me, promise, wasn't me. The rabbi was speaking, and there was a man in the front row snoring loudly. And he told the shammers, the beadle, he said to him, go, wake him up. And the shammers said, you put him to sleep, you wake him up. Wait, it goes on. And he said, I'm telling you, go and wake him up. So he goes to the man and says, shakes him. He says, well, what's the matter? What's the matter? He says, you're snoring. He says, listen, I pay for this seat, I can do anything I like. He says, you don't understand. He says, you're snoring so loud, you're waking everyone else up. That it was. Yes. You know about the Jewish man, this has two religions together. Jewish man is hit in an accident, he's lying on the street, he looks bad, there's no rabbi, they rush a priest over, and the priest bends down to the man and says, do you believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? And the man says, I'm dying, and he's asking me riddles. I'm working hard here. Yes. I've got to go back to Florida, forgive me. A lady in Florida, could be a man as well, calls 911. She says, listen, I don't know what to do. He says, what happened? What happened? He says, I get in my car, they've stolen the stereo, the steering wheel, the brake pedal, and even the accelerator. He says, stay calm. An officer's on the way. A few minutes later, they get another call. He says, disregard. You got in the back seat by mistake. It's funny because I see people nodding saying, yes, it happened to me. Yes. I've got to go to the old ones because the oldest ones are the best. There was a man who comes into a shoe store. A shoe store, you must have heard this. Tell me after how many have heard this. A man comes into a shoe store and he's an old man. But the shoemaker's even older. And he says, listen, he says, you may not believe this, but I was here, I was in the military, we were stationed near here. I was here 40 years ago. 40 years ago. This is ridiculous, he can't. He said, well, tell me what? He says, I left a pair of shoes here. 40 years ago? He says, yes. He said, what is it? He said, wait, tell me, wait a minute. He goes to the back, and he says, mister, them shoes, was they brown? Yes. And the left heel was down? Yes. Missing the lace on the right shoe? He says, yes. They'll be ready on Tuesday. Look at this, we can use all the old things. In the 50s, there was a story about a spy. Ben Gurion was the Prime Minister of Israel, and he calls one of his chief intelligence officers in, and he says, we have a real problem. He said, the Arabs have a weapon, a really powerful weapon. We can't defend against it. And the only way, there's a weapon, it's in the United States, and our spy there has the blueprints, and you have to go immediately because the state of Israel is in danger. He said, what? He said, listen, you're going now, a plane will take you to New York, and you go, he gives him the address in Manhattan, and he says, you go there, and the man's name is Morris Cohen. Morris Cohen. And here's the address. But he says, I'm going. He said, no, wait, there's a code. You have to give him a password. What's the password? He said, the sea is blue, the sky is red. Gets on the plane, goes there, comes to a big apartment building. He sees Morris Cohen. He's about to ring the bell. There's a Morris Cohen on the first floor. And then he sees there's another Morris Cohen on the second floor. Morris Cohen must sort of think, what should he do? Well, he has to do something. He rings the lower bell. He sees a shadowy figure behind the door. He says, Morris Cohen? He says, yes. He says, the sea is blue, the sky is red. He says, He says, you want Cohen the spy? Upstairs. Yes. I have one from several from my dear cousin here. An elderly Jewish couple goes on Aliyah. They move to Israel. And 2 weeks after they arrive, there's an alarm. There's an attack. And they start running to the shelter. And all of a sudden, Becky turns back. And Morris says, where are you going? He says, I left my teeth in the glass. He says, Becky, they're throwing bombs, not sandwiches. Look at it. I'm censoring my material because we're in shul. Normally I can tell some risky things. By the way, someone I know in Jerusalem, he has a plumber, and he calls the plumber his Mashiach. He never comes. Since I'm going downhill, I'll go further. Someone told me, he said, 1 in 5 people in the world are Chinese. He says, now there are 5 people in my family. I must be one of them. It's either my mum, or my dad, or my older brother Chaim, or my younger brother Ho Cha Chu. But I think it's Chaim. Yes, fellow goes to the cleaners. Cohen's dry cleaning store. He arrives there. It's changed. It's now Ahmed's dry cleaning. So what happened to Cohen? He retired. I spent years there. I bought out the business. Anyway, he says, Friday, he says, okay. He drops off his talus, comes back, and he says, how much? And he says, $49.95. $49.95, it's $5. He said, yes, but I had to get all the knots out. Yes. There's a priest, I'm talking a lot about him today, comes to his Jewish neighbor and he says, you know, we've had a lot of burglaries recently, but I've noticed that the Jewish homes have not had any burglaries, and I've noticed something else. On your doors, you have this little thing on the door. I think it's called a mezuzah. He said, that's right. And that protects against this. He said, well, I wouldn't say, he said, no, I know. I want one. He said, you want it? I want one, now. So he gives him a mezuzah with the cloth, with the scroll inside. You know, the priestess look pretty ragged, because things are going bad. Finally, he comes back a couple of weeks later and he looks even worse. And he says, what's the matter? Didn't the burglary stop in your house? And he said, yes, but something worse came. He said, what? Schnorrers. Listen, I'm going to have to switch to something else. I see a sale by owner in the newspaper. Sale by owner. Complete set of Encyclopedia Britannica. 45 volumes, excellent condition. $500 or best offer.